Good evening and thank you all for joining us today. I, Dr. Sonia Singh Thadani, on behalf of GES, welcomes you all on first Hasmukh Shah Memorial Lecture Series. Remembering him via his favorite lines, that is, Yatha Kashtam Chakashtam Cha Sameta Mahaday, meaning just like two logs of wood come together and sail together in a mighty ocean, we all are here united together through the vastness of virtue, vision and wisdom of Shri Hasmukh Shah. I request all of you to join Ms. Preeti Shah to offer prayers to his heavenly award. I invite Ms. Preeti Shah on the stage and request everyone to join us for the prayer.
हे प्रभु तारा पंथे छिए अमे हे प्रभु तारा पंथे छिए अमे जे जणाव्યું તે જાણ્યા કરાવ્યું તે માન્યા તે આપ્યું નસીબમાં છેટલું જ પામ્યા હે પ્રભુ તારા પંથે છીએ અમે તેજ આપી છે હિંમત કરાવીને કિંમત મળ્યું છે અમને અમારી છે કિસ્મત તેજ આપી છે હિંમત કરાવીને કિંમત મળ્યું છે અમને અમારી છે કિસ્મત છે બધા રસ્તા અઘરા કાંટાઓથી તોલ્યા છે બધા રસ્તા અઘરા કાંટાઓથી તોલ્યા આશાઓ જગાડીને એને ખોલ્યા હે પ્રભુ તારા પંથે છીએ અમે હે પ્રભુ તારા પંથે છીએ અમે.
Thank you, Ms. Preeti. I firmly believe that the blessings of Hasmukh Bhai is always with all of us from the brighter world. Imagine, invent and inspire is the mantra Hasmukh Bhai lived with. Sharing his ideology and vision, we have the honor of presence of truly inspirational inventor and youth icon, Padma Shri Kartikeya Sarabhai as our speaker. Great visions are made into reality under the proper guidance and timely actions and the right directions of the leaders. The Gaurav Gatha of Gujarat will always remain incomplete without the mention of Shri P.K. Laheri ji, who had dedicated 40 years of his life for the development of Gujarat. As our session chair, we welcome both of you, sir. Of course, this day is not possible without the guidance of our chairman, Shri Samir Parekh sir, who along with the family members of Hasmukh Bhai made sure that his vision, mission and values are carried forward for the greater good. I invite Shri Samir Parekh sir along with Padma Shri Kartikeya Sarabhai ji and Shri P.K. Laheri ji to grace the dais. And I also invite sir to address the audience and welcome the dignitaries.
Session Chairman, former Chief Secretary P.K. Laheri, Padma Shri Kartikeya Sarabhai, Speaker for the first Hasmukh Shah Memorial Lecture, family members of Hasmukh Bhai, my colleagues from the board and Council of Gujarat Ecology Society, board members of other institutions, guests, ladies and gentlemen. It was 25th October 2021 in this very hall, now Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral R. Harikumar, in the presence of Hasmukh Bhai, released one of the finest publications of Gujarat Ecology Society, Revisiting Ecology of Gujarat Coast, Trends of 2 Decades, the year 2000 and 2020. The next day, they spent nearly 2 hours at Akshar Trust School. That was Hasmukh Bhai's last contribution for the social cause. I would not say it was just the public appearance. I would say it was last contribution, because this 394-page research publication was prepared under his direction, reflecting the richness that Hasmukh Bhai brought in all his deeds. As Dr. M.H. Mehta quoted Sir Erwin Arnold, who wrote about Gautam Buddha in his book, The Light of Asia, and you wrote that in his obituary that you published after Hasmukh Bhai's demise. And I quote, "Of perfect service rendered, duties done, in charity, soft speech, and stainless days, these riches shall not fade away in life." Hasmukh Bhai's riches, as evident from his numerous contributions till his last breath, shall never fade away. Most of you present today, and I know some have even traveled all the way from Bangalore and Mumbai and Ahmedabad, would agree with me that Hasmukh Bhai would never do just an ornamental action. He always believed in impact. His vision and passion for the public good are evident from the vast list of institutions established and nurtured by him. Besides being the founder chairman of Gujarat Ecology Society, Gujarat Institute of Desert Ecology, Darshak Ityas Nidhi, he was also the chairman of prestigious Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Information Communication and Technology, Irma Anand, Shram Mandir, Akshar Trust, Heritage Trust, Center for Fuel Research, Charitar Arogya Mandal, Suratnagar Education Trust, GIRDA, Intech, the list goes on at some point of his career. And also trustee or board member of very famous National Institute of Design, IIT Mumbai, BIAF, Bharat Rural Livelihood Foundation, and Gujarat Nature Conservation Society. You will witness a few of these organizations we could accommodate in the first video compilation of the institutional tributes being released today. Sri Shah was the founder chairman of Gujarat Ecology Society. Under his abiding commitment to ecology, GES completed 110 projects in diverse fields and published 86 papers and 3 books in 27 years. And I am especially sharing this data since I did, some of the attendees today did ask me and requested me that if you can share more details about the organization. Some God's indication, before he left abroad, he handed over the reins of this great organization to me on 26th October 2021 and mentored me almost daily for next few weeks. As part of our tribute, the board of GES decided to launch the Hasmukh Shah Memorial Lecture Series. And we are fortunate that Padma Shri Kartikeya Sarabhai, an exemplary environmental educationist and sustainable development flag bearer, agreed to deliver this first memorial lecture. Mr. Sarabhai has been recognized globally for his pioneering work with several national and international awards, including the International Tree of Learning Award and Sir C.V. Raman Memorial Award. We are equally fortunate that Shri P.K. Laheri sir agreed to chair this first memorial lecture. Besides a strong track record as a problem solver, and sir, for which you are known as Sankat Mochan in many circles, he is one of the few who served as principal secretary to as many as 5 chief ministers. These days, Sri Laheri ji is on a mission for a better India and better life through his relentless contribution to public life. On behalf of GES and several other supporting institutions, and you can see the entire list here, I extend a very, very warm welcome today to both of you. I take a moment to welcome all the distinguished invitees and Hasmukh Bhai's daughter Alpna and son Amlan Bhai and family. Nilaven could not remain present today. FGI President, Secretary General, Managing Committee and Secretariat have been of immense help to this cause. Finally, I would like to quote what Shri Shitanshu Bhai wrote in Hasmukh Bhai's D2 May, which was authored by Hasmukh Bhai, which sums up Hasmukh Bhai's towering personality, and I quote, it's in Gujarati, રાજ સત્તાને સત્તાવાર તોતિંગ વહીવટી તંત્રોને મોટા ઉદ્યોગોના સંચાલનને ટૂંકમાં પ્રજાના જીવનના નિયંત્રક પરિબળોની ગતિવિધિઓને જાણી સમજી કંઈક કાબૂમાં લઈ એમાં સત્તા અધિકાર ભોગવવા એ એક વાત છે, પણ એ વિશે ક્રિટિકલ વિશ્લેષણ કરવું, સ્વાર્થથી ઉપર ઉઠીને એને સમજવું અને ચોકસાઈથી અને રસપ્રદ રીતે એ અંગે લખવું એ ભારે કઠણ કામ છે. એની સાધના અલગ, એનો અધિકાર અલગ, એની મજા અલગ. અને આઈ થિંક that last sentence sums up what Hasmukh Bhai was. So once again, very warm welcome to all of you and our distinguished guests. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Indeed, it's an honor for all of us to be mentored and nurtured by Shri Hasmukh Bhai Shah. I would request you to felicitate our guest of honors with a small but significant memento. I would like to just describe about the memento. The memento is from the hinterland of Gujarat that is given by the women of Guneri village, Lakhpat Taluka, Kutch. This picture piece is part of capacity building of the Guneri restoration project which GS is doing. Along with that, of course, the amount of work done under the guidance of Shri Hasmukh Bhai Shah captured on the coastal book. This was the book released by Bhai last year. Thank you so much, sir. Now, trying to capture the magnanimous journey of Hasmukh Bhai Shah, I would like to present an institutional tribute by the Gujarat Ecology Society.
shortly after our two countries established fully common relations. We led a group of 3 desert ecology researchers with the purpose of learning how to build a similar facility in India's drylands desert in the state of Gujarat. Because I know of many excellent Indian scientists around the globe, I pointed out to Hasmukh that India has the new resources to build a fine desert research institute without running into persistence. But 2 days later, Hasmukh examined the plan in detail and began work on what was to become the Gujarat Institute of Ecology, known as GAI. Over the years, I came to admire Hasmukh as a businessman and philanthropist with a deep interest in a wide range of endeavors to advance India's society and economy. I was impressed not only with his intelligence and extraordinary ability to accomplish important goals, but with his kindness and generosity as well. Hasmukh and his gracious wife hosted me in their home, and when my wife accompanied me on one of many trips to India, we arranged for us an amazing tour with all transportation provided and accommodations arranged. I'm grateful to have been able to experience the richness, color, and hospitality of India over many rewarding years, and for that I thank Hasmukh, who said to me on Twitter.
And therefore even now, one can put in a few words for a man who was PA to the Prime Minister of India, MD and Chairman of IPCA, and wore several other hats. It is like condensing a Mahabharata into just a few lines. Hasmukh to me was a colossal personality, a giant of a man, not in a physical sense, but a storehouse of knowledge and lifelong experience, varying from a small village Bajana near Kutch, Saurashtra, to the seat of power in India, New Delhi. Though not originally Barodian, the contribution he made to the city of Baroda, now Vadodara, in several fields, especially in non-profiting organizations, is phenomenal. His connection and rapport with high and mighty, even after many years of retirement from active service, was unbelievable. To my wife and me, whenever we had the opportunity to meet him, and Srimati Nina went at their house or elsewhere, we would come back, rekindle, happy to have discussed and deliberated and learned something new. He was a repository of knowledge and ideas. One of the great attribute quality of Shri Hasmukh as a leader was not to overshadow others, and especially his juniors, but to allow them to grow and exchange ideas and knowledge. Never to throw his weight around, belittle or bewitch others. He was like a big tree under his umbrella and Chhatra Chaya. He will nurture and grow leaders for tomorrow. Birth and death is a natural phenomena, but his legacy will remain forever.
All societies and all people have a sense of history, a sense of relating to past, which is peculiar to it, its disposition. Hasmukh Shah was one of those persons who was constantly thinking about our relationship to our history, to our past, a way of cultivating a mindset which looked at the past in a dispassionate way, in a scientific way. This looking back had to be based on facts, on evidence. So the kind of historical sensibility that he wanted to cultivate in us was of a very modern kind. He also had perhaps one of the most unique understanding of the large coastline and the people on the coastline, very long tradition of seafaring, of the diaspora that it created, the trade links that it provided. So the work that he got done through Kartikeya Sarabhai on Gujarat and the seas stands out as a remarkable enterprise of an individual's commitment to looking at history in in a very large sweep of time, in a large geographical sense, but also in terms of providing the basic material for understanding of history. His contribution to historical awareness in Gujarat remains sterling. His contribution to the institutional processes that he initiated, the kind of transparent institutional making that he was devoted to, will continue to guide us in Darshan Vidyasniti.
Hasmukh Bhai has ever been a philosopher and a writer, and if I may say so, in spite of the difference in our age, a friend. His association with Bhai has been for well over 50 years, and in all this period, he has guided Bhai through various travels and transitions. Hasmukh Bhai has always provided governance inputs of the highest order. He always displayed a very high clarity of thought, whether it is about value systems, whether it is about the principles of governance, whether it is about the philosophy and approach of development, or the rising after of organizations like that. He always thought beyond the narrow confines of the problem on hand, and his thoughts were always beyond the current times in which one exists. It has always been a privilege to have known him and interacted with him.
The institution of the memorial lecture in memory of Mr. Hasmukh Shah is indeed timely by the Gujarat Ecology Society. His life indeed was well lived. He served as an inspiration, role model, mentor and guide to many. And his contribution to society and Vadodara will continue to live on through the many institutions he helped gives seed to help to nourish and flourish. He was a man of few words and with many ideas and varying interests, and the community at large is solely missing his guidance and mentorship. His role as the founder president and Heritage Trust was truly noteworthy. The trust was established at a time when heritage issues were of little concern, and Vadodara was a sleepy little town, not of much consequence. He led the trust ahead, establishing worthwhile relationships with the powers that be in Vadodara, Gandhinagar and Delhi. He identified several projects for the trust to work upon, one of which was Champan and Power, that the trust ultimately helped become Gujarat's first and India's 26th UNESCO World Heritage Site. Being at Heritage Trust, some of us were lucky enough to exchange ideas with him over lunch a few months before his passing on, and we are truly carrying great memories of that afternoon.
Yes, he was the permanent chairman of DIE, and he was instrumental in formation of DIE from the initial stages. And he during his tenure as chairman, he has brought DIE to the level and national recognitions. He was instrumental in many of the international collaborations, which starts from Israel in 1993 to many international universities with the UK and other countries. And he was the one initiated the conferences. He was also instrumental in conducting a round table in the presence of the Secretary, Ministry of Rural Development, and Professor Uriel Safiel. The BITE, when it was started with 3 scientists. Today, BITE has more than 50 people, scientists and research scholars working. All this development goes to Shri Hasmukh Shah's credits.
सर्वनाशिक श्री हस्तुदेवों की प्रतिमा कलाकार व्यक्तित्व હતા. તેમનો હિન્દુદેશ સાથે ખાસ મિત્રતાનો સંબંધ હતો. તેથી સંબંધની શરૂઆતથી તેઓ સંગીત સાથે હૃદયના તારથી જોડાયેલા હતા. તેમણે સંબંધીમાં ગૌશાળાનો પ્રોજેક્ટ શરૂ કરાવી, દેશનો પ્રોજેક્ટ નખાવ્યો અને વર્લ્ડ કાંગ્રેસ ખાતરનો પ્રોજેક્ટ શરૂ કરાવ્યો. આ રીતે સંબંધીના અંત્યવાસીઓને પગભર કરવામાં અને સમાન જીવન જીવવાની એક તક ઊભી કરી.
શ્રી હસમુખભાઈ આપ 2005થી જ અક્ષરમાં મંત્રીમંડળમાં કાર્યરત હતા. 2016માં આપ શ્રી કુશળ ઠાકુર પર ચેરમેન પદનો કાર્યભાર પણ સંભાળી લીધો. આપે દાખવેલા વિશ્વાસ, કાર્યકુશળ અને આપની કટિબદ્ધતાથી અક્ષર ટ્રસ્ટ આજે નવી ઊંચાઈ સર કરી રહ્યું છે. આપની ચતુરાઈ, દેખરેખ અને આગેવાની હેઠળ અક્ષરના વિદ્યાર્થીઓ અનેક સિદ્ધિ પ્રાપ્ત કરી શકે છે. અક્ષરના બધી બાળકોના શૈક્ષણિક વિકાસ અને સામાજિક ઉત્થાન ક્ષેત્રે આપનું યોગદાન નોંધપાત્ર છે. આપની પ્રખ્યાત કારકિર્દી, કાર્યકુશળતા, બુદ્ધિચાતુર્ય અને સમજદારીને અમારા શત નમન.
Truly a life fully lived and legacy worth celebrating. Before we go further, I invite Dr. Anjana Desai, our board member, to make few important announcements. Dr. Anjana Desai.
Here I have to announce the awards which are being instituted by Gujarat Ecological Society for the researchers and group of researchers working in the field of environmental sciences. Environmental sciences was very near, is not audible? I'm sorry. Is it okay? This is the announcement for the awards being instituted by Gujarat Ecological Society in the field of environmental science for the researchers and group of researchers working in this particular field. Environmental science was very near to the heart of Hasmukh Shah, and this will be the most befitting tribute, I would say the Shraddhanjali to Hasmukh Shah for his contribution in this particular field. Now I would like to give the details of the awards for the august audience to know. For any organization, new energy, enthusiasm and new ideas always breathe new life into the organization and provide opportunities and promote the young active minds working in the field. Hasmukh Bhai was always instrumental in providing this particular environment at the Gujarat Ecological Society, and because he always had a true leadership qualities towards achieving these particular goals. So to honor and celebrate this quality of Sri Hasmukh Bhai Shah, I am honored to announce the launch of Hasmukh Shah Memorial Award, instituted by Gujarat Ecological Society. The Kachnar Trust shall fully fund these awards. The Hasmukh Shah Memorial Awards will be conferred to a researcher and a professional or practitioner whose work has strongly impacted or has the potential to impact the environment conservation or development field. Researchers or practitioners working in India from various domains like coastal and marine ecology, biodiversity, ecological restoration, dynamic systems and extension activities will be eligible to participate in this particular award process. Awards are basically divided into two categories. Category number 1, the research category is for the young professional below the age of 35, working in the working in this particular field with a high degree of creativity and integrity and excellence to provide sustainable solutions for various problems in ecology and environment, bringing societal impact. Category 2, the practitioner category, is to honor the exceptional professionals who have impacted their stakeholders and have shown significant and measurable impact via their programs that are reproducible and scalable. The award consists of cash prize of 2 lakhs each for 2 categories of the researcher and practitioners. In addition, there will also be 2 awards each for notable work done in each category of rupees 25,000. In other words, there are totally 6 awards which are being instituted for the researchers working in this particular field. The award will be announced during the next Hasmukh Shah Memorial Lecture. The eligibility, guidelines and submission details will be available on the website of GES by 31st December 2022, and interested individuals and teams could apply online before April 30th, 2023. I appeal to all of you to widely circulate this news so that we get maximum participation from all over India. Participation in the award process will be a unique learning experience for everyone. I wish all the best to all the future recipients of the award, and we thank Shri Hasmukh Bhai family for starting this excellent initiative for the larger benefit of the society. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Anjana ma'am. I'm sure many young talent and practitioners will be benefited by this initiative taken by the family. Now I would like to invite our guest speaker, Padma Shri Sarabhai, to share insights and enlighten us through his talk, Ecology of Hope towards a Sustainable Lifestyle and a Circular Economy. Sir, please.
It's quite moving to have to talk about people you've admired and worked with so much. Hasmukh Bhai, always very dashing, handsome, coming on a stage with his presence is still something which one sees all the time. In your list of institutions, there might be several you have forgotten, but one of them being the Vikram Sarabhai Community Science Center, of which he was also the chairman, and I had the good fortune of also working with him in that capacity and many others. It's indeed a pleasure and an honor to be here to deliver this talk. Can you hear me? It's a very low volume now. Maybe I think it's better. Right. So members of Hasmukh Bhai's family, several friends and colleagues here who I've known and worked with in different capacities. Laheri Sahib, Samir Bhai, members of the Ecological Society, and friends. Just before I came in, the press was asking me some questions, and I was saying how the challenge of environment today and the challenge before us is where you have all these different stakeholders, whether they are government, industry, NGO, civil society. All of these really need to work together in ways in which you can progress this agenda. It is not possible for any one of these to do it on their own, because the problems are of that nature. And here was Hasmukh Bhai, who was equally at home, whether it was in the Prime Minister's office or as the chairman of an industry or leading this and several other NGOs, who in fact embodied that confluence of different stakes which we want. And someone who could move in from one to another so easily. And that is in fact where we are looking at this. I was asked what the talk should be, and I said ecology of hope. Hope is something which we cannot, in spite of all the dreadful projections, we cannot forget hope. And I must say, yesterday I was moved by two things in the evening. Yesterday, there was a show at Natrani at Darpana of a person who was paraplegic. He had only 10 vertebrae, 10 vertebrae, 10 or 11, and he said this partner who was dancing with her, he said she has 100. So he, as a gesture, so he called this program 111 and just demonstrated what could be done together. It was so moving, and most of the audience were people from the Apang Manav Mandir, and they were cheering away. You know, there was more cheering there than in the football match, which I saw a little later. But they were cheering away, and it just shows what the human spirit can really do. And it showed hope. It showed hope even in the football final, because till the last minute, first half you thought that it's all over, and one was relaxing, and suddenly France came in and equalized it, and then you had half time, and there again it got equalized. So the hope on both sides and what human spirit can do is what it's about. And Hasmukh Bhai really represented that hope, represented that problems can be solved, and problems which we are not necessarily always so familiar with. We are talking about this wonderful book and the work of the Ecological Society on the coastline. And as all of you know, perhaps, Gujarat has the longest coastline, 1600 kilometers, of any state in India. And yet we don't think like a coastal state. If you ask people in Gujarat, they're not coastal in mind. Of course, the people who live on the coast are. And I was asked this question, why is it not? And I said it could perhaps be that the principal city or the capital is not on the coast, unlike Bombay or Chennai or Trivandrum or several others which are on the coastline, and therefore people think of themselves as the coastline. Here we are somehow insulated and don't see the fact that we are in fact the largest coastal state. But it also shows how human minds are somewhat constricted by what they see and how they behave. And in fact, that has been one of the challenges, that how do you open that mind up in terms of anything. If you take in terms of sound, we are in fact hearing a very small set of wavelengths. We would know. I have once been in a situation like this where there was total darkness, and the audience said, "You please continue talking." So I did. When the light came up, I was happy to know that most of the audience was still there. but I did keep talking. So if that happens again, we will do that. But I was talking about how the light spectrum, which we see, is so small. And if you want to see the several stars, we can only see it through an X-ray or through some other thermal device. And that has limited us in terms of what we perceive. But very big limitation is time, that we don't realize that what humans have managed to do in the last 250 years can in fact be so dramatically disturbing ecological balance. It's really strange. Can I see the next slide? Yeah. No, થાય તો થાય, ના થાય તો રહેવા દો. Okay. એવું નથી કે slides બતાવીશ. The main thing about ecology is that you study the relationship between living species and the environment. And that is the relationship which has always been in balance. It just might be slight disruptions, but nature has a way of being robust and bringing it back. But what humans have managed to do post the Industrial Revolution, when we suddenly had not only the resources of the planet as they are today, but through fossil fuels, we had like a savings account, someone suddenly giving you a key to a savings account which had seemingly endless resources, and you could do what you like, and which is what they did. And we had the whole development of mostly Western countries, and then you had not only the resources of your own, but the resources of the colonies which you had. So you had these resources which you could do it, and we thought that surely we as humans could not have such an impact that the very foundation on which we are living will get disturbed. But it has, and there are people like Hasmukh Bhai and others who have recognized it much before. I remember when we started work, the word environment was really a fringe word. It was certainly not something which you found industries discussing. So that whole pristine nature of things, I often ask children, okay, what is it that doesn't exist here? What is it that you don't see? And few of them would come out with an answer saying that waste. There is in fact no concept of waste. It is so circular that whatever becomes so-called output of one gets into the input of another, and that's how that balance was always maintained. In fact, our program with children is called Rochaka, which is the opposite of Kacharo. And because I couldn't find a good word. I couldn't find a good word to show recycling in Gujarati. And I thought Rochak stands for something beautiful or good, and Kacharo doesn't. So I think that's how we started it. But how do you have a circularity of it? And that circularity was possible. So it was really, as I said, the discovery of the fossil fuel, which gave unlimited power. Next one. Yeah. And that industrial revolution. Now that revolution impacted all of us. It in fact, you would say, how does the handloom sector in India get affected by this? Because all the mills started, they needed cotton, and cotton from India had to go there, made into cloth and sold back to us. It's another subject to talk about what happened in the colonial period. But what happened to the environment was that these chimneys, which used to smoke, and smoke used to be at that time almost a signal of wealth. You know, you could see Ahmedabad, I remember from our house, you could see a whole lot of chimneys. I mean, there used to be about 60, 65 textile mills, out of which there are hardly one or two which are there, and that also with a very different technology. But that whole concept of growth, industry, where you wanted to go, all came out of this. And along with this, the other thing which happened was that you had the discovery of medicines, penicillin, better hygiene, and that led to a complete change. Next. This is that same concept as I said. There is no such thing in nature as waste. Next one, please. So you see this population curve. I have to revise this slide, because when I do this slide, people are not sure whether we'll reach 8. But today we have just crossed, just a few months ago, they said that the 8th billion child has come. And my slides probably still say that India is not necessarily the number one most populous country in the world. But I think in another few months, in 2023, we will see the newspaper headline which saying now India is the most populous country. It's not necessarily a great thing to have, but that is the reality. And it will be that for many years to come, that it will be the most populous. But here it was trying to project, but just see these hockey stick type of curves. And there are several such slides. You can see slides of energy use, you can see slides of waste production, you can see slides of urbanization. All of them start looking like this. Next one. We don't sometimes realize, just do one by one, it will just say, that perhaps the first billion, these are all the next billions. If you see that the first billion maybe took 120, the second one took 124 years, but it was 1927, relatively recently. When India became independent, it was still about 2.5 billion was the population. So what we are talking about is in our lifestyle, at least my lifetime, that 32 years to get the third one, 15 years to get the 4th billion, 5th billion in 13 years, 6th in 12, 7th in 12, and the 8th billion was estimated in 13 years, in 2024, right? That was the estimate when this slide was made. It actually happened in 2022, in 11 years. So while we might think that we are slowing down, we in fact haven't. As I said, I just need a new set of slides to put together with this, but that is the pace. 11 years is really nothing. And to say that the entire 11 years is what? The entire planet, entire Indian population, every year and a half, every 10 years and a half, gets added to this planet. And that is really strange. I was talking in Australia at a Deakin lecture, and that morning they had announced that they're doing the Australian census. And again I'm going to talk in the dark, but they were doing the Australian census. And I started therefore just by saying that, do you know that the entire population of Australia gets added to India every 13 months or so? And I said, if we want to have the same standard of living as you, then the number of hospitals you have, number of schools you have, the number of infrastructure you have would have to, even for the new population, would have to be built the entire Australian infrastructure would have to be built every year and a half. So that was a huge challenge. So now, is the population the only thing? And incidentally, it was interesting that the Deakin lecture did not allow slides. So the speaker before me, he said, I'm going to use slides, and he would go and do this. There was no slide actually, but he would make you imagine what that slide is. and I might need to do the same. But, oh, it's starting here. Okay, next one. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, so we are talking about 1928. Gandhiji, much before all this debate and the word sustainability, he was talking to Ghanshyam Das Birla. And this is a statement he said that God forbid that, no, this is not Ghanshyam Das, this is 1920, this is this one, that India should ever take to industrialism after the manner of the West. West in that case usually meant England. If an entire nation of 300 million, we are now talking about 1 billion, 300 million took to similar economic exploitation, it would strip the world bare like locusts. Now that realization of what lifestyles is and how you have to talk to lifestyle, of course Gandhiji was talking about frugality also. Today we don't necessarily talk about frugality, we talk about smart lifestyles, or we talk about ways in which we can have the same type of lifestyle yet not have the type of footprint which it has. But this is how back Gandhiji's foresights really were. Next one. As far as the West is concerned, it was really this book of Rachel Carson in '62 called The Silent Spring, which is considered the watershed when it created that type of awareness. Silent Spring really spoke about how the eggs of the eagle were cracking before the bird could hatch. And then trying to investigate why they were cracking, they found it was the DDT, which was the spray which you did on agriculture. The DDT which you sprayed was destroying that and having that impact. So that long chain impact which you didn't know. You know, these impacts are not so obvious and easy. When the vultures started disappearing, and there used to be, Pradeep Sahib is here, you would know, there used to be such a common bird here. The minute you had a carcass, within 20 minutes you would have 20, 30 vultures which would come. That itself was amazing. But they disappeared and people could not figure out, because nobody kills the vulture, we could not figure out why it was. It was a scientist who, I think, if I'm not right, studied in Pakistan, that it was diclofenac sodium which was entering the system through dead cattle. And that diclofenac sodium then got accumulated and they were dying. Now that sort of link was very, very difficult to do, but what happened was, I think something like 98% of the vultures just died out in a matter of 3 or 4 years. There was a vulture census recently, just 2-3 days ago, and they couldn't find a single one in Ahmedabad. But that is the type of impact humans were having. So not all impacts were conscious. Most of the impacts were because of our lifestyles. We did things which had that impact. Next one. But really at a United Nations level, the first time when it was really taken cognizance of this environment crisis became 72. So although 62 was when America really woke up, Gandhiji was of course much earlier and many other things were being said. 72 is when that really watershed happened. Palme, who was the Prime Minister of Sweden, invited all heads of government and states from all over the world. Only one accepted, and that was the Prime Minister of India. And there was a good discussion here. Okay, should we go or not? Is this a problem of developed world or not? Or is it only developed? Why are we going? But India and the scientists around her and others said that no, this is so critical. And she makes at that time this pairing that the environment cannot be improved in conditions of poverty, and also the reverse, that you cannot solve the problems of poverty under an impoverished environment. But that fact that environment and development are two sides of the same coin was something which India can proudly say that we were one of the contributors to that entire different way of looking at environmental issues. So you can see that it's coming closer. Silent Spring talked about it, then it's coming closer here. People are seeing that link. Next one. Then you had, of course, many events. This is one which was rather famous, the Brundtland Commission. She later became the Prime Minister of Norway. The Brundtland Commission talked about our common future, and also this whole word sustainable development. What is the word sustainable development? Otherwise it was environment and development. Even the next UN conference was environment development. But the word sustainability, which you now will find in almost all corporate annual reports, will talk about what they do sustainability wise. In fact, sustainability is now a requirement to be put in. But at that time these are very new words. 92 then, 20 years after that, 72, was when the first conference, which was called the Earth Summit, Environment and Development. And I had the privilege of being part of the Indian delegation at that time. And we were writing the India report. It was interesting that, this is a side story, but interesting that we wrote this report, we took it to Delhi, because India, they said, "Can you write one as the Center for Environmental Education, we'll take it, but we are not going to present a country report." So I went there, we had given the report. 2 days later, there was this meeting, and the India report was circulated to everyone. So I was amazed. I said, how did this happen? And then I opened it, it is our report. So I then asked the secretary, I said, what happened? He said, I'll tell you later, but we all liked the report so much that we got our peon to tear off all the covers and put a new ministry cover on it. So these things also happened, but it was, I suppose, a compliment in some ways. But one of the sentences which we wrote in that was the real challenge of development is not how to get there, but how not to. That a development model which is so strong, the Western model is so strong that development is seen that way. And we might, and even now, today, I'll come back to that later, because India is the presidency of the G20, and we are now talking, today that speech by the head of the Planning Commission, or Niti Aayog, he was mentioning how we have to think of our own directions. But this was said at that time, that unless we change the direction of where we are going, it's not a question, there is no possible way in which this development can happen, which if we were to all imitate what was said there. Next one. And that was also a very interesting moment when senior President Bush said that the American way of life is not up for negotiation. He was not coming to the summit in Rio, and then they had to almost negotiate, okay, please come. So he said, I will come provided you do not mention lifestyles. And there's another slide I'm showing on Earth Charter, that the Earth Charter document is shelved. The Earth Charter document talks about the ethics which have to go along with saving the environment. And he said, let's not discuss any ethics issue. Let's not discuss this. We can discuss pollution, we can discuss other things. But the American way of life is not up for negotiation. I'm saying that twice because you will see what happened afterwards. Next one. This is the Earth Charter, which was, as I said, one of his conditions to cancel. Next one. I've just said this. Next one. So today I'm sort of fast forwarding the whole thing. We are left with these 3 or 4 major problems as they are seen. I mean, one is, of course, pollution of all natures. Pollution of air, pollution of water, and more recently, right at the prime, is the plastic pollution. It is really so bad. And if you go not only to towns, but if you go to villages, the packing which is plastic, it's inevitable. You have no place to throw it. Even where you throw it in the right place, you are not really sure whether the municipality is taking it and is it going to segregate it or not, or what they're doing. We have, incidentally, in 10 cities now, helped set up enterprises which will take in this plastic and recycle it. But it's a big way. It starts again, as I said, cannot be done by governments unless the person who throws it in the right bin. So till that time, you cannot do it. Next one. The other one is the tremendous biodiversity loss. And as you must be again reading the paper, the COP15 for biodiversity is just ending yesterday or today it is ending. Again, what are the issues? One of the issues is who pays for it? Who pays for this? But India has, in spite of all its pressures on land and things, with having less land proportionally than the number of people, we have done a phenomenal job of saving things which could be saved in sanctuaries and national parks. The tiger is still here, the Asiatic lion is still here. We are now looking for a second home and things like that, but they are still around. Where we still have a problem is those species which cannot be put into a sanctuary. They go out and other things. How do you preserve those? And these are all interconnected with humans. When you talk about ecology, the interconnection between human agriculture and others and the way the forest is very difficult. I mean, Vadodara, if many of you may have seen, it's known as a black buck sanctuary, and it's a wonderful 30 square kilometer, 35 square kilometer national park sanctuary. But besides the black buck, it also happens to be the best place for the harrier. The 3 harriers which come there migrate, and the largest concentration is in Vadodara. And if you see the figures, the numbers was going up. So at first you might think that this is success. But then when we found out, it was because all the other places which they went to are being destroyed, that they are all coming to Vadodara. So now you have this huge concentration from all over which have come to Vadodara, and they are going out, because during the day they don't stay in Vadodara. They roost in Vadodara, they fly out about 12 kilometers and go to farmers' cotton fields and eat the insects there. So they are considered farmers' friend. But those farmers, because of poverty and water, don't use pesticides. So it's all very well, it works well. Now the Narmada water is coming there, and people for development are going to give them pesticides. Now once you give them pesticides, just like the vulture, you will suddenly find that the entire population crashes. And what do you do now? So the ecology part here, which is the research part, which is what is stressed, and I was very glad to see the awards which are being handled. The research part, understanding these linkages, is so important, because the person who is promoting agriculture has no idea of these birds. And the forest department really doesn't have jurisdiction outside. It cannot go and tell agriculture is what to do. So it is civil society, organizations such as GES, which can in fact make those links. Next one. And then of course you have the big one, which is this. In India, luckily we don't have skeptics in that sense. We have people who don't know, and we have people who know. In America you have people who know otherwise. No, in America you have people who deny this. In Texas you cannot teach Darwin's theory unless you also teach the creation theory. It is only considered a theory. So it is very different. Luckily in India we don't have a problem. And what is very interesting, I should again aside, that in India, I talk to little children, and long chain effects, that A caused B, B caused C, C caused D, D caused E, is very easily understood in India. Our stories are like that. One school I went to, I asked, why did Ganga put her children in the river? And who knows? And every child raised their hand. They know the Mahabharata enough. And in the Mahabharata, to understand why Ganga did that action, was she cruel? Was she absurd? What was wrong with her? But why did she do that is such a long story. And that long story is understood by people. So then when you come to the environment and saying that when you do agriculture here, this happens, that happens, and there is a long chain, people understand it much more. So climate change is perhaps now considered one of the biggest ones, but they are all linked. You cannot have the climate change one, biodiversity and pollution. These are the 3 focal areas for what we really need to do. And this is of course a slide which shows that we are currently consuming, or we are going towards consuming 2.5 planets, while we need to follow that orange line. We are already at 1.5 or more, and how we have to change that. Next one quickly. The ecological footprint tells you how much you tread on it. Next one. And if you see this is how much the ecological footprints of different countries are. If you see Asia with a very large x-axis was not, and if Asia were to follow the West, this is what would happen. Just go back one slide. Yeah. So this is what it is today. Now, if everyone in that green wants a lifestyle like North America, then the total effect would be this, which you can, any small child, I have done this not with slides but with other techniques. I have done it with rural schools in Gujarat, and everyone understands. Okay, this is not a path we can follow. It's not a question of when we will follow it. There is never going to be a time when Baroda will look like Los Angeles or something. It cannot, because it would be a disaster if it did. There might be a time when Los Angeles looks like Vadodara. That might be something which we have to aspire to, but not the other way around, because we have to be confident of taking different decisions. So what was that sustainable development? This is what got, at that time when they started from, they were not defined, but then India defined this sustainable development, and we were asked to coordinate between Indian ministries and our people who were arguing the case there. Next. So it is to do with this consumption. This is a 1 week consumption of a average size family. Nobody is fatter than the other, but the consumption is very different because of packaging. It is essential, the fact that we have processed packaged goods, probably unhealthy also. So the left hand side is more expensive, more wasteful, environmentally a disaster, and health-wise a disaster, and more costly. And then these people still aspire to be like that. This is the problem. We aspire, our aspirations are in that direction, and that's where our heads need to be examined a bit. Next. Then we had I have several things I'm omitting in between, but then we had the Paris COP in 2015. And at the Paris COP, finally, all these countries at least came to an agreement. They are not following it, but at least they came to an agreement that we have to do something so that the temperature doesn't go up below 1.5 degrees. We are already up to 1.1. It does not go more. That is where we finally, through the Indian delegation, saw that in the preamble, it says also recognizing the sustainable lifestyles and sustainable patterns of consumption and production, with developed countries taking the lead, play an important role in addressing climate change. Now you might say, what's so great about this sentence? But this sentence has to be seen with that comment of Bush in 92. At that time, America was so powerful that America could see to it that the word lifestyle does not enter into any negotiation till 2015, when the Prime Minister and the whole thing saw that it has to be there. And it is the Indian delegation which ensured this. What he also did was that he asked CE to prepare a book called Parampara, India's Traditions of Climate-Friendly Traditions. What are India's climate-friendly traditions? And you find many. And we will discover, if each one of you I ask, you will all have a new one to add to this book. Next one. So the Prime Minister launched this book in Paris that time, and again put in that we developed country parties taking the lead. Now here, play an important role in addressing climate change. The Rio had already said common but differentiated responsibilities. Now we are going into this whole concept of what is fair and what is just. That the responsibility of solving this, yes, it's common, it's everyone's, but differentiated in the sense we expect the West, who has already done this, to do much more than India does. India always mentions, rightly I think, climate change and the effects in a per capita basis. Per person, this is what we do. They mention it as an aggregate. So India looks like the third most polluting country in the world. It looks like that. It's a slight of any statisticians here will know how you can handle statistics in any way you like. So it comes out differently. But we found when we were doing it all sorts of things. For instance, our young architect team from Ahmedabad went to Kashmir, and in Kashmir they were looking at these houses, and underneath each house is the place where they keep their goats. So we are asking why, what is this, why is that? वो बोलते हैं उसी गर्मी should not go waste, so that the living room is kept warm because of the goats who are under the thing. I mean, just think of these are old concepts which work. Next one. And then we have simple things. Children ask me, what should we do? I said, you eat mangoes. Next one. You eat mangoes in season. Now in Gujarat, everyone does eat mangoes in season. More or less after the monsoon, children stop asking, I want mangoes. If you go to Bombay, maybe 50% of the children will say, why can't I have a mango? In New York, they don't even know that seasons exist. Because, no, they don't, because it's gone out. The supermarket is supposed to find the source and bring it. So you have situations like on the right-hand side here, that they will be flown in and everything else. You can get them from Mauritius for certain months. You can get them from Kenya and other months. And what happens? The footprint of something which we eat goes up. Now, you ask children in Kerala, when I talk, I show them the bananas, and they see different type of bananas. And I said, would you like just one type or something? They say, no. Next one. So, Rotli. So, what's so great about this? Next one. So, we had this whole concept of a khakra. Now, khakra, what is a khakra? It is something where you don't want to throw away the extra rotlis. Now, of course, khakra itself is a product. So, that is a different issue, Lijjat and so many others are making khakra. But at that time, khakra was just a way of preserving it without electricity. It was a simple thing. People ask me, solar energy, does India use solar energy? So I said, these are examples of what I call Siddha solar, which is that all mirchi in India is dried by solar energy. Solar energy doesn't mean I have to put a big PV cell and then bring a thing and then have a heater and someone IIT has designed it. Solar, this is also solar energy. So let us know what this is. Next one. When I first came to India, I was given a communication job of this. And interestingly, talking about research, so the research people used to calculate how much protein is there in dal, and you write it down. How much protein is there in rice, you write it down. You add the two, and it is not as good as milk or something else. So it looks low. Then some brilliant mind said that how about looking at it together? So they saw that if you cook it together and eat it, then the absorbability because of the rice of the protein increases and it becomes as good as 2 glasses of milk. Okay. So the great finding, the result is that you should eat dal and chawal together. Now, of course, we've known it for some time that dal and chawal should be eaten together. But this was the research. That when you start doing research with a different mind frame, that you keep everything separate and don't see synergy, you come to the wrong results. Next one. Now, very quickly, the few more things. The Constitution of India is again unique in the fact that it is the duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, and things. So MC Mehta, a friend and a lawyer, he took a public interest litigation, and he said, how can you ask a citizen to protect the environment when you don't teach it? So the Supreme Court gave a judgment, first in 92 and then again in 2003, which said that every school, college, formal education program has to have environmental education in it because of this. In the second one, they even said that we will put the minister in charge of education at the state level in jail if they don't do it. That is the seriousness with which they say. India became the first country where this is done. And that generation is now coming out. So a lot of people are asking me, that generation which is now grown up with at least knowing the environment in the school, are they going to be different from the field? We don't know, but we hope so. Next one, quickly. We did a lot of things to also create public awareness. One was the climate change train. Next one. And there were often communication challenges. How do you tell someone that 1.5 degrees we are all arguing about? They say that savarthi saach 1.5 to badlai jai. So what is this 1.5? I mean, winter, summer, morning, evening, 1.5 is nothing. And that also they are talking Celsius. So I said, how do we communicate this? So we said, okay, how many of you have had a fever? So everyone raises their hand. And that is probably 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit, not even Celsius. And I said, can you come to school? They said, no, we can't. So just to explain to them an average systemic temperature rise as different from an external rise and how that has a completely different effect. We also had a school program in Andhra where these little girls started using this. And we said, what is this? They said it's a handprint. What is handprint? Handprint is what we can do. They are saying that if you just tread on the planet, yes, you are calling it the footprint, discovered by some Swiss engineers. Handprint is discovered by us in India. So we put it out in 2007 as a launch. Today there are at least 20-30 countries in the world which we are doing. There is a German website on handprint. Time magazine covered it as one of the 10 best ideas. Of course they gave credit to Harvard, but now people are very upset. They said, why, what is this Harvard? How did Harvard come in? So we phoned that Harvard person. That Harvard person, I never studied, the journalist asked me, so I said, this is a good thing. And we did it. But anyway, that's I said, credits you have to forget here in this country. Next one. Next. We also had this whole thing that how do you have uniform things in India which go all over India? How do I develop an educational material which will work in Kanyakumari, will work in Sundarbans, will work in Kashmir? How do you do it? And so we said we'll take inspiration from the Indian sari. The sari is a highly designed garment. A patola sari might take 2 years to make. And yet the final product is a result of the wearer and the person who designed that garment. So it is not a standard, it doesn't come with a prescription. And so our educational materials will be like that. They empower the teacher, but it's the teacher who wears the sari or wears that educational material and uses it. Next one. And of course we have to talk about adaptation and mitigation. We don't realize that for most people, most villages in India, there's only so much they can do for mitigation. They have to prepare. And again, GEC, GES will be required because the coastal villages are the most difficult ones to handle. Next one. This is again coming up. The urban population is bound to go up. And again, under the G20, there was a discussion in Delhi, in Bombay yesterday, day before. And what should that urbanization be? And are we going to think differently? Abdul Kalam ji, for instance, who we saw a photo with Hasmukh Bhai, Abdul Kalam used to talk about Pura, which was how do you provide urban services to rural areas. At that time, we didn't have this COVID ease with which we can work in long distance. Today we do. So today, do we want an urban strategy which is totally different? Let Anand and Valsad, do we focus on these and really bring them up to a certain level? Or do we continue to let everyone migrate to the bigger cities of Surat and Ahmedabad and Baroda and things, and then trying to solve the problem? It's again that same issue of leapfrogging. Do we think differently or we don't? Next one. Circular economy, I've spoken about it. From nature you learn. This is another whole story I won't have time today to do. Next one. We are doing some work in Surat just now as a textile hub. How to make a textiles thing. Next one. And this is the project which we have launched, Prime Minister has launched at COP26, which is this thing called LIFE, life. The I is actually small, and it is lifestyle for environment. So the whole cycle of lifestyles, which was then introduced in 2015, now is becoming central part of the government of India's strategy to go to people. Next one. Just one example of what lifestyle means. In Japan, for instance, they decided that if they were to all give up their tie and give up their coat, they could increase the temperature of their air conditioners. Okay? It was a very small idea. The Prime Minister went on TV telling people to do this, and in front of Japan, as you must know, is a very formal society. They all wear ties and suits and things. He took it off and he said, this is the way. You now have stores, cool biz stores in Japan. How do you design formal clothes without the tie and the jacket? And all the air conditioners have been set at 28 degrees. And there is a whole chart which will show you how many tons of carbon this one act of lifestyle change has done in Japan. So it is possible to do it, and it's possible through leadership. Next one. So that's all I had to say that it's something which we need to bring people together. And as I said, Hasmukh Bhai showed it in his own way that he was familiar and could work in all these three things. And then of course the research angle, which is so much required here, and research not only at the high end, maybe next year you can announce one for school children also, who do who do some of the outstanding research, because it's not only at the hand, they need to get into a mentality of trying to find out. And we hope that in his memory, we will all be able to do justice to those dreams and really take India, Gujarat, and our cities forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed an eye-opening session, and it's like revising the whole environmental science in this 40-45 minutes. Thank you so much for all the things you have made and made us understand the importance of food and everything which we as a current generation might not be knowing. I'm sure the students present over have gained tremendous knowledge, and you made it possible that sustainable lifestyle is absolutely easy to access and we all can have it. Now I would like to request Shri P.K. Laheri ji as our session chair to share his views. Sir.
Shri Kartikeya Bhai, Samir Bhai, and very learned audience here. It is really a touching experience for me to be here this evening and pay my humble homage to Hasmukh Bhai, who has been friend, philosopher and guide, not only to me, but so many people who are present here, and many people still remember his wisdom in guiding affairs of so many institutions, organizations, companies. I had a great privilege of knowing his two doctor brothers, Dr. Praful Bhai and Dr. Dilip Bhai. Dr. Praful Bhai, through Sonal Foundation, did a great work in establishing libraries in all the primary schools in more than 4 districts in Saurashtra. Dilip Bhai was a Rotarian and also contributed a lot to social activities in Ahmedabad. Hasmukh Bhai was a multifaceted personality. He began his career after study in Junagadh to be a translator of collected works of Mahatma Gandhi. He moved on to become a translator, editor, and then became personal secretary to Prime Ministers, Morarji Bhai, Indira Ji. He became chairman of Indian Postal Board, CMD of IPCL, chairman of NID, National Institute of Design, IRMA, Darshak Ityas Nidhi, art, craft, heritage organizations, ecology, education, literature. Basically, if I have to describe Hasmukh Bhai in very few words, a man of concern and commitment. He always worked in a way that whatever were the challenges, whatever were the problems, whatever be the priorities, he always attended to each one of them with equal care and concern. I had also the honor to have him come to Ahmedabad and release my book on Sardar, Smaran Sardarnu, in spite of his ill health. He always kept relations with so many people and was very careful. You can find him ringing up every fortnight or month to inquire about you, to inform about his activities, and constantly be in touch with thousands of people. And there would have been no better person than Kartikeya Bhai to deliver the first memorial lecture on the ecology. As far as Kartikeya Bhai is concerned, I know him since 1978, almost 44 years. I know him more as Amma's son. Malika and Kartikeya, as Amma's children, have maintained relations for so many years. When Mrinalini Ben was chairperson of Gujarat Handloom and Handicraft Corporation, I used to work as in charge managing director for some time, and that is where we got acquainted. And if I recall correctly, when he came and sat on that thalted tekra with only water available to green the tekra, I was among the first few visitors who has been there, and with single-mindedness, giving up all other work, Kartikeya has concentrated on environment, sitting in Nehru Foundation, and made his commitment and expertise known all over the world. So he is the most appropriate person we have today to talk about it. What basically he conveyed, that as far as ecological balance and the issues of pollution are concerned, we are doing too little and we are quite late. Many people are forecasting that the way ice is melting in polar region as well as climate change may be difficult to reverse, almost impossible to reverse. Why? Kartikeya talked about the lifestyle. We all know what is our lifestyle. There was a criteria to measure the development, and what was it? That how many kilo of plastic you consume per capita. Not in very old time, 20 years back, that was considered as the benchmark of development. And today, we have more than 100 million tons of plastic waste floating all over the ocean and becoming a real threat to our existence. Are we ready to really change over? Could we restrict the use of automobile to the bare minimum? Could we take to public transport? Not only set the air conditioner at 28, all of us lived without air conditioner for a number of years. Same thing was that today we are on one side heating the city and making ourselves cold. We are throwing away the heat. But that will not be acceptable to anybody, whether it is electrical gadgets or electricity. There is a thing called energy audit. And you might have seen there is a multi-storied building near Lal Darwaja. And once we, in the year 2003, carried out energy audit, we found that at night it was showing consumption of almost 150 kilowatt. Many people were leaving light, fan, even air conditioner on while going home. We are absolutely callous about it, and that is where the issue is to be addressed. Unless and until we do something for the future generation, we have harmed them enough. Now we need their cooperation to remedy the situation. Once the movement started that crackers are not good for the health and causing lot of pollution, and when all schools took it up, we found there is a considerable reduction in the bursting of crackers on Diwali. Even on Holi, certain harmful colors were used, which have also been reduced considerably. So it is not that we cannot reverse it. What we need is the initiative. And that initiative was taken by Hasmukh Shah 25 years back, a visionary. But what impressed me most about Hasmukh was that he remained a lifelong student. The positions which I read out partly involves chemical and design, art and ecology, but he balanced everything and was always curious to know. We used to have quite frequent meetings, discuss so many issues, but he will be always inquiring about something which he wanted to know and will get authentic information from all possible sources. Secondly, he was workaholic, could never sit quietly, keep on doing something, and that also multitasking. He is ringing up somebody, he is talking to you, then he is giving instruction to somebody. He keeps on doing so many things all the time that he was able to deliver a lot and was very particular in his work. આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં કહીએ ખૂબ ચીવટવાળા માણસ. And he will not allow anything to be less than perfect. हिंदी में कहते हैं वैसे 19-20 का फर्क नहीं चलेगा. He was very particular about it, and that is where we find when Samir Bhai was explaining the last research publication on the coast of Gujarat. It is that particular quality of perfection and particular about work that has given us a lot. He was very frank, but very tactful. It's a great thing to learn communication from him. He had a great gift in articulating his thought as well as communicating to other people and engage people in a very meaningful dialogue. It's a rare ability which I had noticed, always willing to assume any responsibility. This Darshak Itihas Nidhi or many other places, there were so many complicated issues, but Hasmukh Bhai will always try to solve them positively and will never be losing his coolness about the issues which were surrounding him or the organizations in which he was working. Today, Gujarat Ecology Society has organized this function, and with permission of Samir Bhai, I will take liberty to make few suggestions, because we are commemorating memory of Hasmukh Bhai. So all of us should do something about various topics which were dear to him, and ecology being one of them and the topic for the day. I would suggest that Gujarat Ecology Society should set up at least one branch in each district, 33 districts of Gujarat. Looks a very challenging task, but I can assure you it is not. With people like Kartikeya Bhai, and you will be surprised that even in the small place like Talala or Rajula, or you find it, there are many people who are active. They need coordination. They need to bring it together. There are senior forest officer here, they will tell you that they are very particular. If there is a small thing happening to wildlife, there is a agitation. So we should try to bring, since it is a Gujarat Ecological Society, we should create a network, because without network, we will not be strong enough to handle the issues which are quite daunting otherwise. Second one, that if we want to inculcate responsibility towards environment in the young generation, best way is to organize competition in the schools and colleges. And I am sure that if we request few industrial houses, more than our requirement would be forthcoming as a financial support. We should organize this on a large scale. That will, today they have lot of power with a mobile in their hand. They will see it, read it, become aware about it. And unless we involve more than lakhs of students into this, we cannot do it. If you want, I will be able to help in establishing a dialogue with education department, and through them in memory of Hasmukh Bhai and many others who have done extremely good work for ecology. We should name all the prizes and awards in their memory so we can do that work. Then Gujarat Ecology Society should publish an e-magazine. I don't know whether you are doing it. If you are doing, pardon my ignorance, but like down to earth, we should publish a e-magazine, because everybody is reading it. And if I share my experience of Somnath Trust, if I ask anybody, the answer is always inadequate. You will be surprised that in a month, 6 crore to 7 crore people see 5 social media platform of Somnath Trust. Recently we were celebrating centenary of one of our very senior lady member of parliament, Jayaben Vajubai Shah in Rajkot. There was a daira by Abhay Singh Rathod, living right nearby in Bharuch, and it was live on Facebook. And can you imagine the audience? 10 lakh. This is where The power of technology is there and we can use it to reach out. Basically, our responsibility is to educate people, make them aware and make them active in this field. And we should also request Kartikeya Bhai that he has been in this field for a long time. As for international one, COP is held every year. We should have some title for Gujarat, and every year we should have conference so the like-minded people spread all out, come together, think together, and that will create an impact and our agenda will get set. We need to set an agenda because without agenda we will not be able to do that. Over 25 years, Ecology Society has done wonder. More than 150 reports and 4 books. But printed material has limitation. If we have it live, we have it on email, we have it on various social media platforms, we will be able to do it. And last but not the least, that sustainable goals which have been set up. Everyone is talking about it, but very little is being done about it. How to do that should be our topmost agenda, because everybody wants development, but we are paying a heavy price for it, disproportionate price for that. And moreover, we are thereby not only taking risk, we are entering into a very dangerous zone from where we may not be able to turn back and come out. That's why I would request that we should utilize this first memorial lecture to set an agenda for the future and work together. Unless and until all concerned citizens come together and take care of environment, it will not be possible to do it. And I would share a small personal experience. What is the feeling of common man? I am associated with Sadvichar Parivar. 6-7 years back, in the afternoon, Sadvichar Parivar staff rang up to say that, sir, a donor has come. I said, I am at home, which is nearby. He came there. I inquired who he is. He was a class 2 retired officer, drawing at that time a pension of 17,000 to 18,000. After courtesies, he made an offer to give a donation for tree plantation. I thought it will be 10,000, 15,000. He gave me a check of 1 lakh of rupees. I was quite astonished. I asked him that why are you giving such a huge amount? We will do it in Uvarsad. We did that also, utilize that money. His answer was very telling. He said, sir, look, I am 65-year-old. What have I done? I have exhaled so much carbon dioxide and consumed oxygen. This is my compensation or repayment to the nature. This is the spirit with which people are working. And having known Hasmukh Bhai for so many years, having worked with him on many organizations, and having very live touch during his lifetime, I could only say that this is the day for all of us to make a resolution that we shall together work towards ecological balance and reversal of the pollution in whatever way, in whatever manner, in whatever place, and through appropriate means, we should really make a difference. And that would be the best homage to Hasmukh Bhai's memory, apart from his multifaceted talents, for which we will talk in some different forum, not at this. Once again, I am highly thankful to Samir Bhai and team to invite me to this function. Though we are all in Ahmedabad, coming to Baroda is a pleasure in itself. Earlier, Geeta Ben had organized a function in this hall almost 8-10 years back. Always it is good that we come to the Sanskar Nagari of Gujarat and has great tradition. I worked for a very little period during Navnirman in Vadodara in Municipal Corporation, but my association with Vadodara continued as I looked after GSFC, GNFC, Alkali and Sardar Sarovar along with my responsibility as Chief Secretary. So you can imagine that Vadodara is not only Sanskar Nagari, it is also a industrial hub which changed the complexion of Gujarat economy. And last one, small anecdote. I was in charge of GSFC. That time governor was Mr. Naval Kishore Sharma. I went and invited him to visit GSFC. So he said, Laheri ji, मुझे तो बहुत ही अच्छा लगेगा, मुझे ये जरूर देखना है. So I was surprised. I said, sir, any specific reason? He said, जब GSFC बनी 1962 में, तब मैं एक गांव में प्रधान था और वहां नई नई बिजली आई थी. तो हमने फार्मर से कहा कि आप किसानों से कि बिजली से पानी लीजिए. तो कोई किसान ले नहीं रहा था. तो मैंने मीटिंग बुलाई और कहा क्यों नहीं ले रहे हैं. वो कहते हैं साहब बिजली वाला पानी तो गर्म होगा, उससे हमारा सारा क्रॉप नष्ट हो जाएगा. वो कहते हैं जब लोगों की मानसिकता ये थी, तब गुजरात सरकार ने, डॉक्टर जीवराज मेहता ने ऐसा कैसे सोचा कि जॉइंट सेक्टर में फर्टिलाइजर के माध्यम से इस देश को अनाज में आत्मनिर्भर बनाए. एंड दैट इज व्हाट हैज हैपेंड. सो डेवलपमेंट इज नॉट बैड. Some of the means we have employed may have some limitation, but they are not to be totally put aside. We have to strike a balance. And today we have heard Kartikeya Bhai focusing on major issues, and we hope that we are able to do our little bit, even at this age, to resolve them. Thank you very much.
Focus on the problem will grow. Focus on the solutions will grow. Thank you so much, our Kartikeya Sarabhai sir and P.K. Laheri sir, for showing us the tremendous path-breaking solutions via your lectures and the talks. Honestly, it has been truly privileged to listen you, to have you over here today. All the points have been noted, and I'm sure with the easy lifestyle solutions which Sarabhai sir has shared, it will be easy for us to adapt a sustainable lifestyle. Truly, the visions are made into reality under the great leaderships, and thank you, Laheri sir, for showing that momentum of great leadership. And I'm sure GS will definitely work upon establishing branches in the coming years and organizing competition in schools, colleges, and with the support of industrialists. Definitely, we are working on the publishing the e-magazines from the GES. And to Sarabhai sir, we are expecting Gujarat chapter in the next international conferences, as suggested by Laheri sir. And with that note, I would like to invite Dr. Jayendra Lakhmapur for delivering the vote of thanks.
Good evening all. I feel honored and privileged to get this opportunity to propose the vote of thanks on this special day. This is indeed a very blessing moment for the Gujarat Ecology Society to organize the first Hasmukh Shah Memorial Lecture. On behalf of GS family, I convey my regards and hearty thanks to guest speaker Shri Kartikeya Sarabhai. Sir, thank you so much for squeezing out time from the busy schedule and delivering a lecture on very relevant but very challenging topic. It provided a very valuable insight into the linkages between ecology and economy. A special thank to Shri P.K. Laheri for his valuable remarks. Sir, your presence had added extra value to this occasion. I thank all the attendees, the sir's larger family. I mean those who had a long association with the sir and worked with him. Your presence, despite of this first day of the week, is very inspirational for today's and the future events that we are planning. My sincere thanks to all the organizations associated with Shah sir and their heads for supporting events and talking about all the pain to prepare and share the tribute video. I also express my sincere thanks and gratitude to FGI providing this venue and facilities for the event. I feel very proud to be here, and as there were announcement of awards to honor the legacy of sir. We are very thankful to Nilaben Hasmukh Shah and the family for giving us such an inspirational moment and an opportunity to get associated with it. Thanks to all the friends from the electronic and press media for covering the event. Last but not the least, a big thanks to all the volunteers and GS team for their support to make the event a successful. Now may I request you all to stand for the national anthem. Jana Gana Mana Adinayak Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkal Banga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga Utkal Jaladhi Taranga तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jayendra. And with this, we conclude today's session. I'm sure everyone has something to take away home, be it legacy, be it inspiration, be it sustainable lifestyle. And I invite everyone for a high tea.
Thank you.